In just a moment, I'm going to talk to Senator Jon Ossoff. And you may already be tracking all of this. You probably are if you're online, but maybe you've had a busy work day. Who knows? But Senator Ossoff caused quite a stir this weekend during a speech in Georgia when he said this about the president's priorities right now.
While the sailors on the Lincoln fight his war, while he fruitlessly drains our munitions and oil reserves, the president sleeps through his meetings. He golfs and trades stocks. See, he doesn't want to do the job. He wants to build his ballroom and travel with Natalie on their apparently defenseless flying palace gifted by the Emir of Qatar.
Did you hear the crowd for that last part? When Senator Ossoff said he wants to build his ballroom and travel with Natalie on their apparently defenseless flying palace? Well, those, of course, were references to Trump's obsession with building a White House ballroom and the $400 million jet Trump took as a gift from Qatar. But some of you out there might be asking yourselves, who the heck is Natalie? And that appears to have been a reference to Natalie Harp, who is the woman sometimes referred to as the human printer for her role in printing. You can see her right there on the screen and typing dictated social media posts of Trump's. And Natalie Harp has jumped back into the news recently for a number of reasons, not just this past 24 hours. Remember when Trump snuck off Air Force One? Of course you do, in a catering car because of the threat of an Iranian attack. Well, Natalie Harp was one of a handful of special aides he took with him. Well, top cabinet officials like, say, Secretary of State Marco Rubio were left aboard the plane that was supposedly being targeted by Iran. And even before the catering car incident, recent reporting in Jonathan Swan and Maggie Haberman's book, Regime Change, reignited quite a bit of interest in the close relationship between Trump and Harp. Thanks to reporting from Haberman and Swan, we know that Natalie Harp has spent the last few years writing Donald Trump intimate and personal letters. And those letters reportedly include passages like this: "You're all that matters to me." And another one, "I don't ever want to let you down." Now, in one letter, Natalie Harp reportedly thanked Trump for being her, quote, guardian and protector in this life. So a lot to say about these letters. But I mean, just as an aside, imagine if of all of the people on this planet, Donald Trump is the one you saw that way. But that aside, there's more. In another letter, she reportedly told Trump that she wanted to get back to, quote, that synergy she used to have with him where, quote, we'd talk about everything and nothing. She wrote, "I want to bring you joy, to feel like we can get through a day without ever having to talk work," which, again, is a totally normal thing to say to your 80-year-old boss who is the president of the United States, or write to him, I guess I should say. Now, all of that helps explain why Jon Ossoff raised more than a few eyebrows with his comments about how the president would rather travel with Natalie than focus on the job of being president. And look, whatever questions you may have about the nature of the relationship between Trump and Harp, one thing is clear. She definitely doesn't seem like the kind of aide who's going to tell the president that he's lost the plot, that he's focused on the wrong things, maybe he should stop sleeping in the Oval Office, that he's screwing up the country quite a bit. That's pretty much a theme among the people Trump chooses to surround himself with. I mean, just consider the aides Trump took with him on that military plane when he thought his life might be in danger. In addition to the aforementioned Natalie Harp, Trump reportedly also took Walt Nauta, his longtime butler, body man, and former co-conspirator in the Mar-a-Lago documents case. He also reportedly took Dan Scavino, his one-time caddy and longtime advisor. And while other cabinet officials were left on the decoy plane, as well as the press, Trump saved a seat on his special plane for his special boy, Pete Hegseth, one of the most devoted sycophants in a cabinet of devoted sycophants. Those are the people Trump wants around him in high-stakes situations. I mean, those are the people he wants with him when he is looking for feedback on big decisions. So it's no wonder that this president just keeps doing things that are equal parts reckless, baffling, often insane. I mean, just today, Donald Trump just suggested he might radically expand his Middle East war by threatening to, quote, bomb the shit out of Amman if they get in the way of his negotiations over the Strait of Hormuz. Oman has been negotiating with Iran for weeks on a deal to try and get some shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. And now Trump is threatening to bomb Oman because he thinks they are getting in the way. Makes no sense. Also today, Trump just decided to hand North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un a big old gift by dramatically scaling back military exercises with our ally, South Korea. In a Truth Social post that was potentially even typed out by Natalie Harp herself, potentially, we don't know, Trump said, quote, "Based on my very good relationship with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, I am not happy with the fact that the United States has long ago agreed to participate in joint military exercises with South Korea. Based on the fact that it is too late to cancel, I have instructed Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to substantially reduce the joint military exercises. I recently asked the president of South Korea if they would like to join us in the denuclearization of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and they said no thanks." Trump then followed up with this meme of dictator Kim Jong-un on the phone with Trump saying, "We cool, right?" Because apparently someone, maybe a combination of people who were on the catering cart, told him that was a good idea too. Now remember that Trump has spent the last year crowing about how we should all be afraid of Iran becoming a rogue nuclear state. Well, today, he just decided to abandon a key U.S. ally in favor of an actual rogue nuclear state. Now, in addition to our allies, today Trump also decided to throw U.S. service members under the bus. For weeks, we have been getting reports about poor living conditions aboard the USS Lincoln, an aircraft carrier that broke a modern-day record of uninterrupted days at sea because of Trump's war in Iran. But today, Trump again decided to dismiss concerns about those conditions, lashing out at reporters who asked about it. This, of course, comes after Trump told reporters last week that actually he thinks that ship hasn't been deployed long enough. He has made clear over and over again that he's not concerned about the conditions U.S. soldiers are facing aboard that aircraft carrier. But he does have one big concern about America's aircraft carriers, how they look. I mean, just yesterday, we learned that the Navy is now reportedly considering an expensive major redesign of America's fleet of aircraft carriers in order to meet Trump's aesthetic preferences. And that's according to 7 current and former officials familiar with the matter. Specifically, those sources say Trump wants to move the command tower or island from its current position near the stern of the ship toward the center on the next Ford-class ships, 3 of which are already under construction, a change that those officials said would require a significant amount of the Navy's time and a significant amount of money. Why, you ask? This is a question we ask every day. Why? Why does the President of the United States want to go to such drastic lengths to redesign a key part of America's Navy fleet? Well, according to those sources who spoke with the Washington Post, Trump's preference is for the new aircraft carriers to look more like those that were in service during World War II. You know, the war that ended more than 80 years ago. Trump reportedly wants to spend untold amounts of money and manpower redesigning present-day American warships because they don't look like the way that they used to. And maybe it's because he thinks he's staging a movie instead of leading the world's largest military into a war he started. But that is how Trump approaches his entire job, like it's all one big show. He's the set designer-in-chief, gilding the White House with tacky gold ornaments. Good Lord, you can see them there on the screen. And constructing a grand ballroom to stage his big party scene. He's the nation's production designer, making sure that all the ships look right out of a World War II documentary for the big battle royale. He's America's casting director, repeatedly insisting that his cabinet look like they are straight out of Central Casting. Experience be damned, doesn't care about that. And above all, he's the studio executive, the guy who doesn't care what the critics have to say, as long as he makes a big old pile of money and gets to fly around on his fancy jet. Given all that, it's no wonder that Jon Ossoff's claim about Trump not taking the job of president seriously struck a nerve, because Donald Trump cannot help being exactly who he is. I mean, today Trump was asked about Jon Ossoff's claim that he would rather travel with Natalie and build the ballroom than do the job of president. And just watch how quickly Trump rambles his way into making Ossoff's point pretty much for him.
Mr. President, yesterday Jon Ossoff said you'd rather travel with your aide, Natalie Harp, and build the ballroom than do your job as president. What is your response to Jon Ossoff?
You mean Pee Wee Herman? Pee Wee Herman lookalike. No, I would much rather do other things. We're building a great facility here. We're fixing a White House that hasn't been taken care of. You can look at this. This room was a disgraceful situation, the Oval Office, and it was let go. The whole building, the White House, was let go. The exteriors were falling apart. The columns were falling apart. The whole place was a mess. In addition, they've been trying to get a ballroom for the last 150 years.
So again, not to put too fine a point on it here, but Trump is asked about the claim he's too focused on jetting around with his aide and making White House renovations. And within seconds, he's ranting about those same White House renovations. See, Donald Trump does have interests. The problem is none of them seem to involve his actual job.